2025 was kind of a rough year. Most studios didn't market their movies properly, and worst of all, most people just didn't even bother to go to the theater because they kept saying, "Darn, tickets are too expensive." Oh well, let's just wait until it comes out on streaming. We started off this year with some of the worst movies to ever come out of the 2020s, and we didn't even get any good movies until the summer. At least with 2024, there were a lot of good movies that came out during that summer, but this year, there has just been a lack of good movies this summer, and it really shows the decline of cinemas as we know it. From my personal experience ranking these movies all year long, I already had my top 5 worst movies list completed by August. But with that said, it's not all doom and gloom, as towards the end of the year, we got some of the best movies of the decade, and even the summer had a few bright spots despite the lack of marketing. But now, it's time for me to rank every single film I saw in 2025. All year long, I had to do revisions to my best and worst lists in order to finalize my ranking. Let me be honest with you, it was a little hard for me to rank them, but I managed to catch them all. Well, almost. Before we begin this ranking, I need to address the elephant in the room.
What elephant?
I included Anaconda in the thumbnail, but unfortunately, I couldn't get around to watching it this year. The same applies to these movies. I might get around to watching them later, but I just didn't have the time this year. So please, I kindly ask, if you do not see a certain movie on this list, please do not type in my comment section saying something like, "You forgot Elio," or "You scumbag, we're sinners." Like I said, I will get around to watching them at some point. But for right now, they are not included in this ranking. Now with that said, let's get on to the ranking of every film released in 2025. Let's-a go, like a Super Mario.
I'm bad. That's bad.
Where do I even begin with Snow White? Rachel Zegler clearly didn't have the charisma or the PR training to play Snow White, and Gal Gadot's line delivery as the evil queen just fell flat. I know a lot of people are gonna want me to talk about the politics in this movie, but every other channel does that, so I'm not gonna waste your time. Politics aside, everything about this movie was just awful. All the charm was sucked out of the original movie. The dwarves have now been replaced with characters from the Polar Express. The colors look all washed out and depressing, even down to Snow White's appearance. Her hair looks like Dora the Explorer, and her dress looks like something that was bought off of Temu. And don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to Snow White remakes where she's more than just a damsel in distress. In fact, one of my favorite renditions of Snow White is the show Once Upon a Time, and it's not just because of Ginnifer Goodwin. Okay, it's because of Ginnifer Goodwin. But real talk, she works because she's a dynamic character with her own strengths and weaknesses, and despite her challenges, she's able to save others and grow in her confidence. This movie doesn't do any of that. Snow White is already a perfect princess with no flaws whatsoever. She can do anything. I could talk about this pile of dog crap a lot more in depth, but I'm gonna save that for a future video about Mary Susan movies. But to wrap things up, this movie just doesn't deserve a proper outro. It just sucks. No! To be honest, I watched this movie at the beginning of this year, and I honestly don't remember a lot from Captain America: Brave New World. As a kid, I loved Marvel movies, and up until Endgame, there wasn't really a single bad Marvel movie. But now that their biggest story has been told, it feels like they're just picking up scraps. And because apparently Tony Stark is no longer on the team, they can no longer build anything cool from it. Okay, I should talk about the movie now. The pacing was very slow, the CGI was weird. I think this is supposed to be a sequel to The Falcon and the Winter Soldier that nobody watched. Oh, apparently my sister watched it, but even she's not a movie reviewer, and she thought it was garbage. Harrison Ford is meant to represent Trump, but to sum this off, this is just a forgettable movie. Moving on. Oh, goody! Another SpongeBob movie, as if the third one wasn't enough for me to say done. Also, this movie's tagline is "Ships about to go down."
Really?
Wow, that totally gives me a good impression for what I'm about to watch, Nickelodeon. Okay, but this time around, I actually did have a few positives with this movie. It's at least better than Sponge on the Run. Mark Hamill did a pretty solid job as the Flying Dutchman. I may have chuckled at a few scenes, and yeah, that's pretty much it. This just goes to show that Nickelodeon and Paramount are just beating up a dead horse when it comes to SpongeBob SquarePants. The jokes were mostly unfunny in this movie. It was either a pop culture reference or haha, here's a character pooping a brick out of their butt. Because get it? It's like shitting bricks. That's so funny!
me!
And trust me, that joke was not a one-off like the trailers made you think. They have this joke as a recurring gag. I know some SpongeBob fans like this movie, but I'm personally not a fan after watching this. Even as someone who loved the original from 2004, this movie feels like a spit in the face to the SpongeBob brand. And don't even get me started on the theme song. The lyrics are literally just Ice Spice repeating "big guy" 46 times. Is this song trying to become the next Podluck song from Steven Universe? Little advice, Nickelodeon. Do not have your lead artist show up to the premiere of your kid's movie looking like this. Oh, and also don't do this. Okay, let me think of another positive. I guess that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles short before it was cute. I'm actually pretty excited about Mutant Mayhem too, but other than that, this franchise has gone on far too long, and I'm sorry, but it needs to die.
Guys? Is this Freddy Fazbear? Or...
This movie score is a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry, but I did not like Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Yeah, I know, a lot of FNAF stans are gonna come after me, but allow me to explain. And hey, I can handle your opinion if you like it, but to me, this movie felt so weird. Yes, they include key elements of the games, which explains Scott Cawthon's involvement, but this movie doesn't know what it wants to be. The characters are flat, and when they do have emotional breakthroughs, the reasoning doesn't make sense. The only actor that actually works in these movies is Matthew Lillard as William Afton, who, by the way, is the main villain of the franchise. In this movie, he barely shows up. They just mention his name a few times, and then they go back to the wacky animatronics hijinks. Hey Blumhouse, if you're gonna make a Five Nights at Freddy's movie, maybe you should make the main villain a present character within the movie. I'm just saying. I guess the Newton brothers did a pretty solid job with the soundtrack. The opening scene was solid. I liked the meme reference, and the Jim Henson Workshop still has the strength to make the animatronics feel like they came out of the games. Everything else about this movie and its predecessor feels like the Michael Bay Transformers movies all over again. Dull, repetitive, and relying on spectacle and fan service rather than a good story. I guess you can watch it, but for me, this was a one and done. I did not have any high expectations for the live-action Lilo and Stitch. These Disney remakes feel like a fart in the wind. I watch them, say my thoughts on them, and then just move on with my life. I took my friends to see it just to say that I've seen it, and I regret every single second of it. I am aware this movie made $1 billion at the box office, but I don't care. This movie is a desecration to the original film. So many elements from the original have been stripped away, and I know they got Chris Sanders back to voice Stitch, which is nice and all, but they just reuse his lines lazily from the original film, multiple times. I will give the movie this. They actually did do a solid job on the CGI. Yes, the bar is that low. And I guess Billy Magnussen was a solid choice for Pleakley, but come on, be like the original and put that alien in drag, you cowards. The actress who plays Lilo was pretty cute in her role, and I think that's pretty much it as far as positives go. This movie takes everything that made the original beloved and throws it in a wood chipper. I'm gonna try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, but a beloved character from the original gets bastardized, and they completely abandon the message of Ohana means family. Like, how do you do that? And much like the other remakes, the colors feel so washed out, and if you don't already know this, but the colors were one of the key elements of what made the original Lilo and Stitch so beloved. Every color in it, down to the blues and greens, felt like a piece of art on a canvas. Here, the ocean looks drab and lifeless. The sand is all washed out, and even the scenes filmed at night look too dark. The editing is extremely choppy to the point where you can't help but question, what the heck just happened? Anyway, I hate this movie. It's a huge waste of my time, and it is not worth it as the first movie that I saw in 2025. I am not paying for the live-action Moana because I'm expecting that one to also be a huge waste of my time.
Strawberry, watermelon.
Chicken jockey!
Oh, the Minecraft a Minecraft movie. Flint and Steel, Chicken Jockey, I'm Steve. The one movie that sent the theaters erupting into chaos. But how was the movie? It was bad, but here's the thing. It's only ranked 5th to last for a reason, just like how Barnyard was ranked 5th to last in my deleted Nickelodeon movies ranking, which I am planning on redoing later. I don't know, man, but there's just something about movies like this that are so insanely bad in ways that you have never seen before that you can't resist but to go with the flow and have a fun time watching it. One thing that really frustrated me about this movie, aside from the obvious fact that it should have been animated, is that the opening is probably one of the worst openings to any film, at least from this decade. The pacing is so slow, and any character that is not Jack Black or Jason Momoa is just boring like a block of wood. Even after rewatching this movie on New Year's, I still couldn't remember the other characters' names aside from Steve and the rest of the other Minecraft creatures. Unlike most live-action movies, this movie is actually pretty colorful, but I don't know, for a movie that came from the same studio as Detective Pikachu, a movie that is vibrant, funny, but also had an engaging story despite it coming from the Shark Tale director, is just so embarrassing, and it's a bad representation of the Mojang game. The tone is way too over the top and goofy, and I guess you can argue that's Jared Hess's style, but screw it, I'm not taking this movie seriously, because I'm laughing too hard at it, and I'm not gonna stop laughing until the day I die. Bad movie, but also one of the most epic movies ever made. So take what you can get, blockheads. Haha, get it? Because Minecraft, you know, you get it.
And this is a Naked Gun.
Alright, I must confess, I have not seen a single Naked Gun movie until the 2025 reboot with Liam Neeson. Yeah, this one's pretty bad, but I don't want you to take this short review seriously, because once again, I have not seen a single Naked Gun movie before this, so I guess that was my mistake for not preparing myself. Much like Minecraft, I cannot take this movie seriously. This is one of those movies where the whole thing is just a joke, a circus on a huge silver screen. The action is way too over the top and goofy that it almost reminded me of the Suicide Squad. I mean, one of the characters even gets their arms detached during a fight, so if you know, you know. I'm sure I'll check out these movies later on in the future, but for right now, this movie is bad, but it's also a guilty pleasure, so check it out.
And then along came Zeus. He hurled his thunderbolt.
And next up, we have another Marvel movie. One that I honestly didn't care for, but I watched it anyway, and I'm surprised to report that it wasn't half bad. It's still a 6 out of 10, but I have to say, Thunderbolts is much like Rango, at least in terms of the first 10 or 15 minutes. Both movies start off very slow, to the point where you end up getting bored and you're instantly taken out of it. But as you get further into the movie, it starts to shape up and become a fun adventure. The characters both have compelling dynamics and arcs, specifically Yelena. She was more interesting here than in Black Widow. I actually forgot Black Widow's existence until this movie. I was intrigued by watching her overcome her struggles through her traumatic adulthood, and the rest of the Thunderbolts are solid characters. I just wish Disney didn't make us feel the need to watch their movies and shows before this. The colors are desaturated, but that works because the characters are in life or death situations throughout the movie, so the grays and blacks really complement the feel of the movie. A rather flawed film, but I will admit, it's still pretty solid.
Race cars don't need headlights because the track is always lit.
F1 is probably the most difficult movie to rank. It's an okay movie. I know little to nothing about Formula One. I just saw this movie because what the heck. I do like how the beginning kicks off with Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. I think that's a really neat song choice to start off the movie. Brad Pitt does a solid job in the role of Sony, Damson Idris does a great job at voicing his rival, and that's about that. The middle chunk is a little messy, and it kinda got me bored at some points in the movie. That's not to say that there weren't still impactful moments in the movie, because there were. And Hans Zimmer is still cooking with the score, like he always does. If you're not into Formula One, I guess you can give this one a watch, but this is one of those movies where if you're a fan of the source material, you're probably gonna love it. Me personally, I thought it was solid, but if you're looking for a masterpiece from this director, just watch Top Gun Maverick instead. You'll get a lot more from it.
Demon, where?
I bet many of you were expecting me to rank this in first place, but I didn't. Oh boy, now this rankings is gonna get controversial now, isn't it? K-pop Demon Hunters is pretty good.
Hey, that's pretty good.
I can see why people love this movie and why it's been so popular around the world, but as for me, I think it might be a little overrated and overhyped. I'll say right off the bat, the animation is spectacular, with Sony still obtaining that Spider-Verse flair with the constant change of frame rates and badass looking art style. There's not really a single bad song in this movie, and the covers done by various other artists are good too. My favorite is specifically Matt Dusk's version of Golden, which is really smooth, and to those of you who like jazz, this one's for you. As far as the rest, the songs range from okay to certified bangers. Soda Pop is a guilty pleasure of a song. How It's Done is a phenomenal opening. Golden is okay, in my opinion. And hey, if my generation was able to annoy their parents with Let It Go, then these kids can do the same thing with Golden. Takedown is a fun diss track, but the way they came up with the name was a little cheap. Free is lovely, and I love the chemistry Rumi has with Jinu. Your Idol goes hard. The visuals and sinister tone is so menacing that it might stand toe-to-toe with the Disney villain songs from the Renaissance. And what it sounds like is probably the weakest song on the soundtrack. It reminded me of something out of My Little Pony. Yeah, the plot is probably the weakest element of the movie, as I could see things coming from a mile away. No spoilers, but during the climax, I could predict almost everything that was going to happen next. But, regardless of its flaws, I still think K-Pop Demon Hunters is a pretty fun movie. A 7 out of 10, if you will. It's not another Spider-Verse, but it's a nice addition to Sony's catalog.
People are taking the lyrics of Defying Gravity and really holding space with that.
Wicked for Good, the Act 2 of a movie based on a musical based on a book. Side note, do not read the book. Worst mistake of my life. Also, this is the movie that has a whopping, let me see here, 0 Oscar nominations. I went into this thinking it had a 50% chance of disappointing and a 50% chance that it would be better than its predecessor. Lo and behold, I was wrong. It was still good, but better than Act 1? I don't think so. If I had to tell you something about it before you see it, it would be this. There are so many plot holes, and not only regarding the ones from the show it's adapting, but also the events of The Wizard of Oz. Even my mom, whose favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, pointed out so many details and plot points that were ignored in this movie. The songs are still great, like in the musical, specifically No Good Deed. The way Cynthia Erivo performs it is powerful. She hits all the correct notes like she did with Defying Gravity, and the visuals are magical, combined with the incredible sound and set design that keeps that Broadway-turned-movie adaptation alive like in the original. But I won't lie when I say that the new songs were aggressively mediocre. I can understand its mixed reception, but I still think this movie is good. But let's not beat around the bush and say, please, calm the heck down, Cynthia and Ariana.
We were bad, but now we're good. Moving into your neighborhood.
Shades on, boys, because it's Bad Guys O'Clock. The Bad Guys 2, much like another anthropomorphic animal movie that came out this year, ranks supreme over its predecessor, at least in my opinion. However, with this one, it's not by much. The animation is still awesome like in the original. As someone who hasn't read the books growing up, this art style is stellar. It's nice to see DreamWorks still committing to that Last Wish art style. The fight scenes go hard in this movie, especially during the climax. The story is a little uneven, and there are some jokes that might not be my cup of tea, but I won't lie when I say that I actually chuckled and laughed at a few jokes. And hey, to give the movie props, the villain is very threatening, and at times reminded me of Tai Lung through her chilling demeanor and her sinister vocal delivery by Danielle Brooks. Kinda weird how she was goofy and comical in Minecraft, but intimidating in here. The rest of the bad girls are really compelling characters, but I will say, those scenes with Doom and Snake flirting with each other were a little unnecessary. The villain from the last movie doesn't show up until the middle chunk, and Diane was absent for the majority of the movie. I would have loved to see more scenes with her. Oh, and before you ask, yes, I thought that certain scene was cute. See, furries? I agree with you for once, so take what you can get. This is still a pretty damn good movie, and I for sure wouldn't mind a third installment.
We should take the earth and push it somewhere else.
The Fantastic Four, The First Steps. Is that seriously what you're gonna call the movie? Why not just Fantastic Four First Steps? Like, huh? Anyway, this movie is great. I've heard about the Pedro Pascal fiasco leading up to it, and yeah, it was weird, but I can't say the same thing about the movie itself. Maybe a few flaws I can say about it is the CGI, especially on Franklin. It could look really fake and uncanny at times, And Reed Richards' plan to stop Galactus is so stupid on so many levels. If you've seen the movie, you'll know. Michael Giacchino still delivers banger tracks, and weirdly enough, I don't think I heard a single licensed song during this movie because the music was mostly Michael Giacchino and nothing else. I love the family dynamics of the Fantastic Four, and I don't know, this might actually be the best interpretation of them. The pacing is a little uneven during the opening scene, but as the movie progresses, it manages to keep you engaged. It might not be for everyone, but I actually enjoyed it.
Save me, super guy!
No.
You're a dick!
I've heard so much when it came to Superman. It was mostly mixed reactions, with most people saying that it doesn't take itself seriously by ignoring the plot and characters and shifting more on the comedy side, making a mid-movie in the process. Well, I'm here to tell you Boulder Dash. This is still a great movie with a good spin on Superman. You can tell James Gunn wanted to create a new take on the Man of Steel because it's crystal clear that we've all heard about Superman's origins countless times to the point where we're just tired of it. The action and fight scenes are really strong in this movie, but the comedy is maybe a little too overbloated. Superman himself gets the ever-living daylights beaten out of him throughout the movie, and it's not like I want him to be perfect. I just want him to have strengths and flaws rather than being some overpowered godlike figure. And the Justice Gang are left off to the side for most of the movie, so they could have done more with them. I would recommend watching the first Superman movie before you seek this out. That way you won't be confused with what's going on. What can I say? James Gunn did a great job with the Superman movie. It's not better than the Suicide Squad, but that's okay.
1 year later, I got beat up at a Neil Diamond concert by a guy named Scrunchy.
As a longtime Neil Diamond fan, thanks to my family, I was looking forward to Song Sung Blue. I didn't hear any discussion about it until October, which is honestly sad because I loved this movie. For a film about a Neil Diamond cover band, this doesn't quite hit home, but it was still charming. The biggest compliment I can give the movie is hands down Hugh Jackman's performance. From Wolverine to P.T. Barnum to a raging homosexual, this man is able to slip himself into any role and make it super convincing. I almost want him to play Wario in the upcoming Super Mario Galaxy movie. It's not gonna happen, but hey, a boy could dream. And to give Kate Hudson props, she did a great job as his wife. I think she really sells the emotion through the second and third act of the movie. I was actually on the verge of tears during one scene, and there was actually a scene in there that made me gasp because I didn't see it coming. And of course, I gotta talk about the music. You can tell that the casting crew really love Neil Diamond's greatest hits, and they even snuck in a few songs that you wouldn't expect out of a Neil Diamond project. This was a delightful surprise for the holiday season. My family and I had fun with it, and while the beginning might be a little slow and maybe the middle act might be a little overstuffed, I officially declare that Song Sung Blue is indeed an amazing movie. Now, I wanted this to be my dark horse of the year, but it needs to be said.
It's a Christmas miracle.
I mean, what else do I have to say? I cannot stress enough how much I love Zootopia 2. What a great sequel to one of the best modern-day Disney films, and more importantly, a film that reminds you that Disney's magic is not lost. It's just been absent for far too long, and now it's finally back. I'll try to cover this movie as best as I can without repeating everything I said in my review. But this is a rare sequel that chooses to build upon what made its predecessor so special, rather than downgrading the characters and the story. I'm looking at you, Ralph Breaks the Internet. The characters still have compelling dynamics, specifically Nick Wilde and Judy Hopps. Their relationship as partners is satisfying to watch on screen. There's one scene in the middle of the movie that I won't spoil, but I'll have to cover that in a potential analysis video that I'm planning for the near future. All I can say is, no other American film would have the balls to do that. The new characters like Gary DeSnake, Nibbles, Mayor Cronkhorse, and yes, even Pawbert are great additions to the Zootopia franchise, and none of them are loud and annoying. My dad was someone who worked in politics for decades, and he always said that political movies can never be good movies. In his experience, movies that push a political agenda care more about the message rather than making a good movie. Zootopia and Zootopia 2 have proved that they are the exception to that rule. The colors in this movie are so beautiful. There wasn't really a single frame of this movie where I thought the colors were washed out. I will say, Zoo is a pretty solid song, but it isn't as iconic as Try Everything. Also, it's just Waka Waka, but Zootopified. Yes, this movie still has flaws, but it is still a great sequel, and my favorite movie of 2025. Kinda weird how last year it was a Paramount movie that was the holder of the crown, but this year, Disney got it. And they earned it. This is the only time, Disney, you'll get another stamp of approval if I like your next original film, Hexed. Well, like I said, 2025 was rocky, but there was still hope at the end of the tunnel. Hopefully 2026 will be better. I hope Pixar's Hoppers and Disney's Hexed all turn out good. Hoppers is coming from the creator of We Bare Bears, which is a good show, and Disney's Hexed is where Jared Bush really needs to cook. He did that with a sequel, now he needs to do that with an original, even though he's not directing the film. I'm quite excited for the Super Mario Galaxy movie, and the Odyssey. Oh, man! Nolan, please do not let us down or I swear to God. Thank you and good night.